Welcome to the April webinar loaders. I'm your host, Chad. This is my co-host,
Emma.
Thank you guys for voting on the polls for this webinar. And we appreciate your participation. So what did they vote on?
You guys want to hear advice from top loaders about how to generate revenue in the slow season and then also how to become just a top loader on the platform. So we did some interviews over the past couple of weeks with some top loaders who've got high completion rates, high customer feedback scores, and then who also know how to generate revenue and make it a full-time business in their markets.
That's right. So we interviewed 3, Jaffen Redden, Branden Tello, and Mike Martinez. Out of these 3, we had a ton of great content. We ended up cutting it down for the webinar form into 5 topics. The first topic is maximizing revenue through strategy. The second is scaling operations. The third is efficient and responsible disposal. The fourth is managing people and pay. And the fifth is time and relationship management. Let's get into these topics.
So first topic we're going to go over is maximizing revenue through strategy. So let's see what they say.
Since I came to LoadUp, what I mainly started doing is devoting all my time to LoadUp instead of going through different platforms and using other platforms, because it gets you confused. You mess up, you either make mistakes on other platforms or you make mistakes with the customers on LoadUp. Running one platform is better, but what I'd done was I expanded my zip code range to where I'm actually stretching all the way out towards like Pensacola, which it might be a 4-hour trip. But when I do it, if I strategically grab orders en route, then I can make it a $500 to $800 day. If you stick it out in the tough times and you actually build the areas up, when you see things on Facebook, free, message will say, hey, why don't you donate that to LoadUp? Take extra initiative on your end to make more orders come into your area. Say if there's an area that does not have a lot of orders and you're struggling, get on there and find free. Everybody that has free wants it out of their home. And if it's been sitting up there, they can't get rid of it. You message that customer and mention LoadUp, they're like, hey, somebody will come and take this thing and it gets donated. So then they submit an order. Boom, you take the order. You just created an order for yourself just by taking the extra initiative to message the customer.
During the slow season, at least for me, I always try to bundle orders. If I'm going to a certain area, because I not only do I do the springs, but I also cater to a lot to Denver. From here to Denver, it's about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. So for me, I'm a go-getter, right? So sometimes you got to drive outside of your normal area to make some money. I don't mind driving, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours. Last week, I went all the way out to Aspen, Breckenridge, which that's not a short drive from here from the Springs. Sometimes you just got to go chase the money.
Learn your zip codes. That's what I tell everybody is like, I can be in the middle of 2, 3 orders and I'm in Austin and I see a zip code and I already know I'm next to it and I'm going to grab that order as well, because I already know it's 5 minutes down the street or it's 10 minutes or it's going towards the way we're going to the next one. So, I know Texas has a lot of zip codes and I know other states do too, but you can learn those zip codes. You'd be surprised how much more money you make because you already know where you're sitting at or what road you're going to take and stuff like that.
That was great. Some key points there. Remember, expanding your service areas and knowing the zip codes around you can help you bundle orders as you go. Moving on to the next topic.
Second topic is scaling operations. Let's get into it with the loaders.
When I first started, and it's going back to scaling the business. When I first started, I had a little, I think it was like a 8 or 10 foot trailer, and it was maybe 5 feet wide, so it wasn't really anything big, right? So it was just enough to get a few orders. I could probably maximize maybe 1 to 3 orders, pushing it if they're a few items. And so I quickly found out that I needed a bigger setup, bigger orders, bigger payouts. And so within a few months, I was able to scale it. Now I have a 16-foot trailer. Has a 6.5 feet deck. And then I have another trailer that's a 20-footer trailer with a foot deck. Like I even had an offer for like having flexible trailers. like I said, sometimes the items are kind of, bulky. One time I had an order for a hot tub, for a demo for a hot tub. Another time I had an offer to go actually pick up a car. So, having these multiple trailers gives you that advantage of, being able to pick up these other items that nobody can. Another instance, I had a few bales of cardboard. Those weigh, several thousand pounds. So always having the right equipment is always going to be the key to success. And the thing that I like about Load Up too is that they offer a subscription. So sometimes going back to the slow season, sometimes you got to pay to play, and having that subscription where you're able to jump on those orders a lot quicker, it gives you that leverage to know you to keep that money flow coming in.
That's a good point. So you can jump on orders that have a ton of items because it sounds like you can rotate between these two trailers depending on the amount of items or the type of
Yep.
work you got to do. So you have the flexibility, like because you scaled your team from a trailer perspective, which is massive. And then it sounds like you're leveraging the subscriptions to jump on those orders because you have the ability to get them.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes, sir.
So what I also always tell people I would consider if you're gonna do load up is you should have like a 16-foot trailer so you can do all those orders. So the quantity I can hold up between an F-250 and a 16-foot trailer, I can put anywhere from 8 to 10 orders in a good day. If I were to give advice to a new loader, it would be one to make sure you invest in yourself. If you're gonna do load up, uh, you have to put everything into it. I'm not saying that's the only thing you get to juice, but you should have to. Uh, you could get a trailer, start with the 5x8, and then it makes you more money because you're getting more orders. Are you able to do more orders effective and efficiently? Bring a dolly, bring the floor cars, get a sheetrock dolly just in case it's a mattress in the apartment, 200 yards away from the truck. Let that sheetrock dolly. Yeah, I know it costs money, but as long as you take care of it and hold on to it one time, it'll pay itself back in the long run. Not just money wise, but on your back, your knees, your joints, and everything like that.
The thing is the drivers that stick with it now, that put in the effort now, you'll know everything. So then as other drivers that dependable people that are coming in, you can even add them to your driver team and maybe utilize that services so you're able to make passive income, because you get really good at doing your job. And you might know other dependable drivers that could come to our platform that could bring valuativity to the platform. And they might just need a little bit of guidance. Then you bring them on as your driver team and you're responsible for them. I tried to figure out, I knew good, dependable drivers that were reliable, that had trucks and trailers, but I knew if I got them hired in my zone, it would mess me up on orders. So I started thinking, hey, maybe in bigger cities, I might have some friends that are really reliable and that could help load up. And if it helps load up, maybe I could utilize a subscription. I can buy a bigger subscription and make it work out to where maybe I can collect a royalty. So I just started thinking, what's passive income? What's something that even if my area is not busy and their area is busy, they might not be too coordinated to be able to talk on the phone too well. They might have issues like that. So they get added to my driver team. I take responsibility, but as far as mechanically, they were really, really inclined. They could do anything that I needed them to do. So I'm starting to hire in other people in different zones and it's helping load up because it's fulfilling the orders that they need done. And they're mainly doing the big, big orders. So they might go out in a day and make $800, $900, and I make $100, but if I'm on the phone with support nonstop, it makes it to where it's worth it for them and it's worth it for me because we're outsourcing the big jobs and they don't have to keep track of that.
Good talking points all around. Obviously, a really key takeaway here is having different trailer sizes, but especially having a trailer. Also, if you're nearby to another metro area, having a driver team in that metro area, not to compete with yours, and then leveraging a subscription across multiple driver teams. Okay, let's get into the third topic.
Third topic is efficient and responsible disposal. So let's see what they have to say.
Whenever it comes to, I guess, junk removal, the biggest obstacles is knowing where to take the items. Like majority of this platform, a lot of these items can be donated. And so you kind of have to, navigate your way on finding where to take these products to. I would say majority, probably about 85 to 90% of the time, everything is donatable. And it's, from a simple little table to some chairs, a couch, and then also, again, doing your due diligence in finding where to take these items. A kind of a hiccup when I first started is I was wasting a lot of time, or not really wasting, but like, I'd have to go out to these facilities and find where to take this or where, and then so my trailer would kind of, get backed up with the stuff that we're removing. And so when that happens, let's say you got an order and it's like, oh man, my trailer's full. What am I gonna do now? It's things like that that I would go tell myself, do your due diligence in your local, get in your community, find out where all the recycling programs are, whether it's from the metal to, we do a lot of business with the art center or the art thrift stores. I know they're a very good place to take items to. Habitat for Humanity. There's always, Goodwill, those types of places. But like I said, any advice would be, just do the basic groundwork, the due diligence, in knowing where to take the items that you need, that you've got on, and just really managing your time and making the most out of your day.
Out. If you're outside of city limits in certain states, the dumps are free. But if you're
Mm.
inside city limits, you have to pay a $40 fee. So utilize that. If you have free dump fees, that's where you need to be going. Not even if it's a 10-mile trip, or when you're at a different area. If you're 3 hours away, you get a whole load of stuff and you're still having to do orders, go to a thrift store. Offer them to take. You want these two nice items? You got to take everything. And most of the time, they'll dispose of it on their own needs. But they get them two items, and you kind of work out your bartering system to where they're kind of committed to emptying your trailer for you, and then you can go get the other orders, and you're not stockpiled. So even if you have a 14-foot trailer, you can keep doing orders. It sounds goofy, it sounds funny, but one of the biggest mistakes that I made was stockpiling. So when you start taking 7 orders a day, sometimes you don't always have time to go to the dump. So you start stacking it up. And I call it the graveyard because I'm slowly chewing at trying to get all this stuff out. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm loving this. There's so many orders. And everybody's like, well, where are you bringing it all to the dump? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do that on my down day. Well, Load Up didn't have a down day. We went about 21 days with about 6 orders a day. And that becomes a lot of couches, mattresses.
Another great segment. So, definitely finding those go to places for donations and recycling, disposal, trying to cut down on some costs there. And then also just making sure that you're avoiding that item buildup on your property or storage unit or wherever it is that you might keep items. So, let's see what number 4 is.
Number 4 is managing people and pay. Let's get the different perspectives here on from the top loaders.
So during this slow season, I go into an hourly. So I do either hourly or sometimes by the day. What I did last season when it started really ramping up, like you said, in the spring and summertime, I did a percentage. So like the more orders that I had off of Load Up, the bigger payout for my helper would be.
And do you tend to like hang on to your helpers, or do you see that more as like a in and out flow there? Or you have a consistent helper?
No, I do have a consistent helper. He's been helping me for about the same time, about a year now. When we first started together, I kind of, gave him the idea. I was like, hey, do you want to help me, start a junk removal business? And like I said, this past year has been very successful, in the junk removal business. But I will say, hard help is, hard to find. You definitely have to have somebody reliable, somebody responsible, somebody willing to, get the job done, everything professional, stuff like that.
I do for the most part with my helper. I mean, we do a lot of driving, right? My helper would tell you like it's more driving than it is the work. I mean, sometimes we do have some big orders where we're there an hour, It just depends. But most of the time, the hours take anywhere. I mean, these jobs take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. And so I kind of come to the thing of $15 an hour, and that's including drive time. And I have to consider that when we're going to Austin and San Antonio. I do convert it to paying by the job because we're closer. And if we hit traffic, we hit traffic, and you got to have a helper that's understanding of that. But I typically stick to the $15 an hour rule, and then I kind of cap the day at 200 if we're going between here. You do have to be flexible considering on like especially the large loads. I'm not gonna give it if we kill it at an hour, I'm not gonna give somebody $15 an hour when we just did a pretty big job and we hustled and got it done within an hour.
We run into situations to where it is really tight on like drivers or on helpers. So, your quality of work comes with what you pay. Or you pay $100 a day, you'll get somebody that's quality, that's gonna be careful with walking through somebody's house, and that the customers see, and they're happy with seeing that person. It's hard with I've mentioned this when I first started because I was doing about 7 or 8 of the little orders a day. With those helpers, the way I put it is I would do like say $10 to $20 on a mattress. And then on my couches were $20. But if you set it out to where every mattress, say mattresses, you only get about $40 or $50. So if you work out $10 every mattress, so if you're picking up 5 mattresses that day, he can make $50 and y'all can have it set up to where you merge them orders into a shorter period and you work yourself hard for that one day because nobody's going to want to come out and help you for 2 orders that they're going to make $20. But if you merge your orders, then your helpers are more prone to come work for you because they can make $100 a day.
So you'll do it more like per item or like a daily rate kind of thing, depending on the jobs.
If I've got a big job, like say if it's a seven room removal, I normally bring 2 helpers and I pay them $100 a day. I'll do $50 a load. So if we load up that trailer, the faster we load it up, the faster they get their $50. And if they do two, and we might do this in 4 or 5 hours, but the faster we do it, the faster they get their money.
Another set of good talking points. Obviously, having a consistent helper equals quality. Also, paying by the item, hourly pay, and capping that by the day. But clearly, flexibility is key when negotiating pay with your helpers. Okay, last topic, number 5.
The final topic is time and relationship management. So let's see what they've got going on there.
Time management, I mean by that as in like, let's say you're bulking up a few orders, right? So you want to plan your day out as kind of a route, right? So you want to, or even let's say you have to go to the dumper in the morning or whatever you have to do. So you want to manage your time very wisely because it can, sometimes things happen and you get delayed. I know one of the questions was on there, like, how do you stay on top of your orders and arriving on time, or how do you stay on top of your scheduling? For me, because you have your time windows. So what I like to do is I like to knock all the small orders out in the morning and then knock the bigger out orders out in the afternoon.
So know your routes, where you're gonna go, know your limitations. I mean, there's some pickups here in San Antonio that are far west San Antonio, 40 minutes away from where I live. So I already know like that's 2 hours gone. There's no way I'm gonna make 2 or 3 orders in Austin before 12 unless they're all in the same area. And that's why I say like know your zip codes, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I know I will make it because each one of these is about 10 minutes apart and they're only a mattress. But if one of them's an extra large load, um, then you're going to be there a while.
Whereas the customers just don't want to sit on their butt waiting on you for hours when you knew that you were nowhere near. So instantly, instead of them being in a hostile situation because you waited to the last minute to text them, you utilized your time and you messaged them and told them, hey, I'm leaving Louisiana. I'm en route to you. And they're like, okay, if you could just let me know 30 minutes ago, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you know an hour in advance. As long as you're fluent with them and you talk to them and they don't have to sit around, because that's when they get mad. When they sit around, say if it's 12 to 4 o'clock window, and I've had to talk to my drivers about it. When you don't text them and you don't inform them of what's going on, they don't like that 30 minutes showing up. A lot of people like when Load Up sends you that text, reach out to the customer too at 802. You should be reaching out right at 8 o'clock, even if load up sends you it or not. But when they send it, message them and go, just make sure that everything's fluent with the pickup, because you could also drive to these orders and something could be messed up. FedEx could have came and picked up their mattress and you drive an hour and a half and realize you didn't do your job. You're not getting paid. All of the support agents amazing, and they'll treat you, because none of them have been bad to me. I love every support agent I've ever talked to, between DoorDash, Uber Eats, Roadie. Horrible. You look at here, you get load up, as everyone is communicative, and when you call, they talk to you.
Another great one, probably one of my favorites, with advice. So, knowing those routes, knowing your limitations, choosing wisely. But the biggest thing for me is just knowing those zip codes. If you're consistently doing work in a zip code and you want to know if you have access to those surrounding areas, then you can check out the loader portal online. We did a webinar last month on how to figure that out. What about you, Chad?
So my favorite tip, very similar to getting into the service area and knowing your zip codes, Branden Tello got into his community. So he knows where the recycle centers are, the donation sites, and of course your disposal sites too. But really he's focusing on sustainable disposal, and it's free. So that's really great to hear from Branden Tello. But overall, thank you loaders for the interviews, and thank you guys for staying tuned.
Thanks, guys.